Welcome to the January 23rd Oklahoma City Planning Commission meeting. If you have cell phones, pagers, or other electronic devices, if you would either turn those off or silence them now, we would appreciate that. If you are not the applicant and you've come to talk to us about a case today, there are sign-up sheets. They look like this. They're on the table outside the chambers. If you would complete it for the case you'd like to be heard on, we'd be happy to hear you when we hear the case. First order of business is the January 9th minutes, Commissioners.
Move approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Cast your votes. And the minutes are approved. Aubrey, we'll go to continuance requests.
Okay, there are 5 uncontested continuance requests. The item B24 for SPUD 747 is deferred to February 13th. Item 25, which is C6562, deferred to February 13th. Item 26, which is PUD 1517, also deferred to February 27th. Item 27, PUD 1515 to February 27th. And item 28, SPUD 731, is withdrawn.
Is there anyone who came to talk to us about the items that were just read today?
Move the uncontested continuance.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the continuances. Cast your votes. They are approved.
We have a number of new continuance requests. It would be item A1, C6569 to defer to February 13th. B11, PUD 1525 to February 13th. Item 12, C6561 to February 13th. Item 15, SP 465 to February 13th. Item 17, SPUD 734 to February 13th. Item 20, C6568, also to February 13th. Item 21, C6572 to February 13th. Item 22, C6551 to February 27th. Item 23, 6554 to February 27th.
Same question. Did anyone come to talk to us today about any of the items just read?
Move the additional continuance.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the additional continuances. Cast your votes, and they're approved. Consent docket is next.
On the consent docket, the first item is deferred. The second item is C6148, the extension of the final plat of Valdera, Section 2. Item 3 is C6571, the final plat of Valencia Park, Section 15. Item 4 is C5985, extension of the final plat of the Southern Preserve, Phase 2. And item 5 is PUD SP 1369K for a specific plan pursuant to the approval of PUD 1369.
Anyone come today to talk to us about items 2 through 5 on our agenda?
Move approval of the items on the consent docket.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket. Cast your votes, and that's approved.
Okay, items requiring separate vote. Item 6 is case C6567, the revised final plat of Ponderosa Estates.
Good afternoon. I'm Kendall Dillon with Craft & Toll, representing the applicant, and this is a final plat that conforms with the preliminary plat. We are in agreement with all of staff's TEs and would ask for your approval.
No one signed up, Commissioners.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 6. Cast your votes.
Thank you.
And it's approved.
Item number 7 is C6570 for the revised final plat of Bella Ranch, Phase 2.
Good afternoon. Tim Johnson with Johnson Associates on behalf of the applicant. This is a project that we did a number of years ago, and the developer went bankrupt. It has now been acquired, and the final plat that you see before you is a continuation of what was originally approved in the preliminary and final plat of the original Bella Ranch. We do agree with all the staff's technical evaluations. I did speak with one of the residents within the addition, and they were concerned because those streets ended up being private. They were constructed as public, but because the development went under, ended up being accepted as private. And we did commit, I committed to making sure that our paving contractor will repair any damage that he creates in the construction of the new street. I told him I'd put that on the record. I don't think the staff has any binding action on that. And then there's a couple here from the east side, 20 acres on the east side of the track that we visited about. They're concerned about the fencing. I explained to them there would be fencing, and I would promote the site-proof fence along that east side. Because it is residential, it doesn't necessarily require site-proof, so we would agree to have the developer provide site-proof fence on that east side.
Okay, no one signed up, Commissioners?
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 7. Cast your votes.
Thank
And
you.
it's approved. Thank you.
Item 8 is C-6519, preliminary plat of Les Chateaux.
My name is Dennis Fox, and I'm here with Mark Grubbs. This is a case where City Council approved the RA zoning. I know there's been a protest petition that's been filed, but in this case, if you look at your staff report, what we're asking for, and this will be a private street, it'll be gated, and we believe that this is in conformance with RA. We believe it's in conformance with what the plan calls for and the zoning that the council approved. With regard to this tract, your TEs provide 2 variances. We really only need 1 variance, and that's the variance that deals with the entrance. And if we're talking about the entrance, we're going to do a very similar development, only we're going to be gated to the development that's over on our east side. And we believe we meet the intent of the restriction provided in the subdivision regulations. If we read that, and it's 510-2C, it says 2 separate points of access shall be provided to each subdivision, and then there's the rest of the language, except where site configuration justifies a single entry. If we look at the site, as you can tell, it's a lay-down 40, narrow. We think that this is similar to subdivisions that have been in all sections of this city, and we think it's a good design. Mark Grubbs is the engineer to answer any questions if there are any, and with that, I'll leave it to the chair. And
Dennis, I got a couple of questions. Number one, what kind of street are we going to put in?
I'm going to have Mr. Grubbs answer that.
We were, originally, we were looking at a concrete street with a curb and gutter paving section, sir.
You are going to put in a concrete street with curb and gutter.
You said originally,
Go back to the asphalt. Asphalt with curb and gutter.
Asphalt with curb and gutter, why not? How come you circumvented the concrete street?
We had went back and forth on it, and he, evidently he's looked at the cost and decided different. But he is looking at the cost of the homes to be somewhere in the $3 to $500,000 range, somewhere in there, so large houses.
And what kind of entrance are you planning on putting in?
We have been looking at a gated entry with, we haven't really discussed the monument signs or anything of that nature yet, sir.
Okay, and what size houses are you planning on putting in here?
3,000 to 4,000, sir.
3,000 to 4,000 square feet?
Yes, sir.
But, go back to the entrance for a minute, Mark.
Okay.
As you know, when we only have one entrance, we have some standards for a boulevard-type
for the-
entrance to get in. Why can't you do something like that here?
As far as the gated entry, we'll still have to provide the fire with their access, sir.
Well, I understand that, but you're asking for the variance, and if you built the entrance to that standard, you wouldn't need the variance. And I guess that's my...
The variance deals with making that connection to the north, to the street stub to the north. We have the one access but the actual reason that we're asking for the variance is that to make that connection to the north. But it's a gated community, and so it would be separate from that, and it's a different product from that.
No, I'm not asking for the connection to the north. I'm wondering if this one entrance you have, why it doesn't meet the,
It does, I mean, it meets, there's 30 lots on a single entrance. It does meet the subdivision regulations.
okay. Thank you.
We do have protesters, but I have a question first, Dennis.
Yes,
If
sir.
I understood you, you said something about a connection to the east or not having a connection to the east. What was your reference?
That we would not have a connection to the east. This will be a private gated community, and it will stand alone as it is.
Dennis, one of the things that kind of bother me with this thing, and I know the people that own this property own the property all the way to Southeast 44th, and my concern is are they going to come in, and you probably can't answer this, or nobody probably can, are they going to come in a year and ask for another 40-acre tract with a long street in it? That's what concerns me more than anything.
I do not
Well,
know.
with the exception of, I live in a subdivision, I live on a 1-acre tract, I live in that same area. We have fires, we have more fires now than we've ever had, a wildfire type. We don't have any kind of water supply in that area at all. And that bothers me, the safety aspect of it. You've met, or you're going to, it sounds to me like you're going to meet all the requirements. Staff recommends approval.
Yes, sir.
And there's one thing that I'd like to see this, a firm commitment on, is to have concrete streets that will meet Oklahoma City codes, so that if ever, and it happens, if ever they come back and say, hey, we would like to have the city start maintaining this street, we'll take down the gate, and so on and so forth, that we've got a street that meets Oklahoma City codes.
I'm going to let Mark speak to that. I will say one thing with regard to the details of this action. We have agreed to provide sprinklers within the confines of the houses.
Okay?
So I think that should take care of your fire issue on the concrete streets.
First, I'd like to answer your question regarding the rest of the property. Just in my personal opinion, you know that property, it's solid trees. And when Mr. Bryant came to me looking at this development, he says, this guy's selling property, what piece should we look at? And looking at the topography, I told him that lay down 40, because the rest of the property to the south makes it very difficult to develop due to the topography and with the dense trees. The way that he is developing that is we're simply going to go cut in the street, leave the rest of the trees, and only remove the trees he needs to on each lot to put the house on. So it's not like we're clearing trees and able to move a bunch of dirt work, do a bunch of dirt work out there. So it makes it difficult for the property to the south to develop in the way that it is forest-wise. As far as the streets goes, we don't recall the numbers on the cost of the concrete versus the asphalt, but either way, we would meet the asphalt or concrete code for streets. That way that it meets your concerns as far as if it ever had to be dedicated to the public, because asphalt also is an allowed street.
Okay, let me ask the staff. JJ, if they do put in asphalt streets, will the city go out and inspect those just like it would be if they were a public street?
Yes, they'll have to meet city standard.
Okay, so they would inspect those streets as well, just like they would public streets?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we've got two people who signed up to speak. Robert Mendoza.
Mr. Chairman, may I
Yes.
make this point? The
6 votes are required for the variance. I'm not going to vote for it. I don't think that the city council pays enough attention to what we do with respect to this particular application. I agree with what the protesters are saying, and so there'll be 5 votes, if there is 5 votes, for the variance. I'm not going to vote for it. I don't think this is appropriate for where it is. I don't like the design. I don't like the one street. I don't like the idea that you're going to do asphalt. I don't like just one entrance. For the same reasons that we had the same debate last time about this particular application when we voted to deny it. You know, whatever was in the wisdom of the council, that's not up to me, but I won't vote for the variance.
That being said, I guess the next question is, would you like to continue this case?
Well,
Yeah,
we've got 2 people signed up.
Right. Yeah, I think ultimately we would like a fair hearing, and when you hear a comment like that, you're not going to get a fair hearing. So we'd like it continued. We'd like to hear from the protestants, and then if there's an opportunity for us to meet with them between now and the hearing, we'll meet with them.
I'd like to call up Robert Mendoza. I'm not sure that that means you don't get a fair hearing. You've got a planning commissioner who doesn't agree that the variance is appropriate. Doesn't mean that it's unfair. I mean, he's merely explaining that by virtue of the head count.
Fairness, in my opinion, is where you have an opportunity for either side to be successful. If you have a requirement that you have 6 votes and you only have 5 people voting, that's not fair.
Okay, but Commissioner Bright's comment was not an unfair comment, and I want to make sure that that's clear. Mr. Mendoza. Give us your name and address, please.
My name is Robert Mendoza. I live at 3801 South Henny Road, which is directly across the street from the entrance to the proposed development. As you recall, this item was attached to the application to rezone. The Planning Commission voted to recommend denial on the 24th October Planning Commission meeting. But on the 17th December City Council meeting, Councilman Pete White voted to approve the zoning, and he convinced the other council members, and it was approved unanimously. I attended just about every Planning Commission meeting, but was not able to attend the City Council meeting to protest myself in front of the council. I reviewed the video, however, and there were a couple comments that were made that caused me extreme indignation. Councilman White said he wasn't sure why the Planning Commission recommended denial, and that this was the first time that he was not going to vote with the recommendation of the Planning Commission. He went on to explain that he had visited the area and also met with the applicant, and it appeared to be compatible with the application. I strongly believe that the applicant's visit was more influential, and I can't help but be offended for the Planning Commission. I also don't understand why he would not approach the Planning Commission for clarification if he was not clear about your vote. In addition, I was annoyed with his assertion that the density was an inevitability, that it will eventually come either 1 acre or 5 acres at a time. I disagree, and every property owner in that area that I talked to, 17 of which signed that petition. There should be resources and infrastructure in place before the people move in that area. If he truly visited the area, then he would have noticed that the condition of the roads around that area is abysmal. There are 2 roads that are closest to the proposed development, 35th and 38th Street, are not even maintained by the city. They are almost impassable. And next to, or just south of 38th Street is 44th Street, which is one of the main thoroughfares. Early last April, it completely washed out, and it was not repaired till the end of September. Additionally, in that area, east of Post Road, it's extremely vulnerable, like you said, to wildfires, and the closest fire department is I-240 and Anderson Road, which is approximately 6 miles away, and that's only if all the roads are passable. Now, we also are concerned with the water quality. I know they say that the aquifer is from 88 feet to 800, but it doesn't mention the quality anywhere where that quality starts and where it ends. And I know, Commissioner Allen, you expressed your concern about the water quality in the 24th October meeting. In closing, the people in that area that surrounds the applicant's proposed development signed the petition to let it be known that I'm not the only one that proposes this application. Many of us were naive to think that we could do anything about putting that development in there. And we will continue to resist this change as much as we can. We ask that the Planning Commission deny this application. Questions?
Thank you. If I pronounce this correctly, Don Furch or Furchy? Give us your name and address, please.
Don Furch, 3630 Oakbriar Drive.
Okay.
I'm going to try to, explain to you how I think that this property will devalue my property. I live in the Jules Estate, directly north of that property. My house is the very south house, southeast corner, so I directly border this property. As you can see back there, the property line runs parallel to my backyard and my front yard, and it extends up, another half a mile to another home that's not in an addition, but it runs parallel with its front lawn as well. I try to keep my lawn pretty nice. I have my paved driveway comes up and runs 180 feet up to the house, runs under our overhang and runs it back down 180 feet. It's all paved. That property line is 10 feet from my south driveway. Typically when you see a neighborhood, you don't see backyards directly bordering front yards, front lawns. I try to keep it up. I have a sprinkler system there, try to keep it, weed-free and those kinds of things. A lot of work to do, but still yet, I try to keep it as nice as I can. Obviously in the back lot, you kind of expect to see back lawns when you get back there. You go out in your backyard, you see your neighbor's pool, you see their barns, and that's what I have. I have a 25 by 25 slab barn or building in my back that the rock matches the house. I have a couple of tin barns back there, typical. I keep my trailers back there, and I put one a cover to put up there for my camper trailer. Typical things that this property would do as well. With 1 3/4 acre lots, you're going to park things back there. You're going to need storage buildings for lawn equipment, those kinds of things. Again, typically you don't want to look into someone's backyard and see those things. You want to see other people's front yards. And I thought zoning may get changed one of these days. I always thought it would come through and at least they would be beside me and I'd only see their front yards. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think that the way it's set up, there was no green belt, to try to keep the trees in between my property, at least my front lawn, for being viewed. 60 feet of green belt, and even the other end, his front lawn's going to be there as well. He's a fireman up there, and he's not going to. I tried to talk to him last night, but I'm sure he's not going to want to look into backyards either, and all the equipment, and anything they put back there, or buildings, even how nice they look. I think since it's not actually set up to have that green belt, regardless if they say, hey, they're not going to cut down the trees, it's not on paper that they're going to have a green belt there. And they could obviously come in and put a fence around there and decide to take it all down, or even leave the trees up at 10 feet from my property. They would have a fence up and may decide to take it down. Who knows? It would be at their whim. Anyway, nevertheless, I wish you would just give my property value. I've got over $100,000 in updates. It's built in 1982, but inside now we've got over $100,000 of updates. We're trying to keep it up, trying to keep the property value up, and I believe it will diminish it greatly if it goes in as planned with no means for a green belt.
Thank you.
Your property is the one that fronts Hiawassee, or is it? It's that property. I was thinking it was the larger piece of property.
Well,
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Dennis, you want a 2-week continuance? Is that? Do you have a motion?
So what you want? Yes, sir. I'll make a motion.
We have a motion and a second to continue item 8 for 2 weeks. Cast your votes. Thank you. There you go.
Item 9 is PC 10358, an application by Surrey LLC to rezone 11820 West Hefner Road from R1 Single Family and AA Agricultural to R1 Single Family Residential District.
My name is Dennis Fox, and I'm here with Kendall Dillon, and this is an application that we would like single-family. Kendall has an exhibit that will show the areas that are AA that we will be bringing into single-family zoning. This is in Mr. Hensley's ward. He's not here, so I have not had the opportunity to talk to him, but your staff report is pretty clear that what we're asking for is in conformance with the surrounding area, and there's a plat that we'd ask you to look at after your review of the zoning. I'm here to answer any questions, and also Mr. Kendall Dillon.
Commissioners, no one signed up.
Move approval.
A motion and a second to approve item 9. Cast your votes. And it's approved.
Thank you.
Janice, you're voting? Thank you.
Item 10 is C6549, a preliminary plat of South Fork.
Kendall Dillon with Crafton Toll, representing the applicant, and again, preliminary plat. We're not asking for any variances. We are in agreement with the TEs. I'm going to ask for your approval.
No one signed up?
I have a question. On the north side, above Northwest 105th Street, that entire area, there's no access to the common area H.
Yeah, we'll provide you can obviously access it from that stub with 105th itself as well, but we don't have a problem with adding some common area in there to access it through that block.
A little whatever there is, so...
Sure.
What does Jack Creek Drive up there on the northwest corner, will that not come into the common area?
It does. So you can access it from, because a part of it's off the scale, but there's a common area that we provided down on the south end, then 150, you can access it, and then up on Jack Creek Drive. So we've provided those locations to access that common area already.
So that's enough? I mean, on both ends and nothing in the middle? That's
No,
really what
well,
the point
you can
is.
access it from 105th in the middle. Go see the stub from the street itself.
You can access the entire common area
Right.
from 105th. All right, that's fine.
Where will amenities go? Kendall, have you got?
We currently, there's a common area on the north, I think it's A, and then on the south, off the map there is another area that we've identified. In the middle, which actually we've got a little bit of confusion going on between, because we actually have a revised plat that I think is not correct in the staff report. But there also is well, if you look right in the middle, just below southwest or northwest 105th, in the middle you'll see common area E. That is an area that there is a blue line through there, so the Corps of Engineers has some regulation on that. But our attempt is going to be to work with them and potentially put some of the amenities there in that common area, if we can get them to approve it.
Yeah, I like the idea of putting them centrally located where people throughout a project can get to them, rather than at one extreme end or the other.
Right.
Okay. Again, no one has signed up, Commissioners? We have a motion and a second to approve item 10. Cast your votes. And they're approved.
Thank you.
I'm not sure. Use your mic. Tell Buck. No.
I just wondered if there's anything coming up on the, that requires 6 votes. I have to leave here at 2:30.
We'll be pretty close to finish by 2:30, I think.
Okay.
Items 11 and 12 were deferred. Item 13 is SPUD 736 by Neighborhood Services Organization to rezone 1416 Northwest 16th Street from R1, R2, and SPUD to the SPUD 736 Simplified Plan Unit Development District.
Nick, will you chair, please?
Are you ready for them? Are we ready? Okay. Stacy Ninnis. My address is 8101 South Walker Avenue, Suite C. First, I kind of wanted to start off in giving a little history on the application. We originally went to the city to request a permit to build just a new teaching kitchen, but under the direction of the city staff, it was just suggested that we apply for a SPED application, since we currently own the lot east of the current facility, 1416 Northwest 16th Street. So that way, that's how the original SPED application came into play. So at this point in time, we have no plans to build any additional residential units on that particular site. So we are dropping that residential facility, or we are willing to drop the residential facility from that application. So I've brought to you today a revised site plan, and then I also have additional information regarding NSO that you can also reference.
While that's being passed down, let me ask a
Okay.
question. How many people do you now serve? How many beds do you now have?
We currently have 12 bedrooms.
12?
Yes,
And
sir.
so you're dropping the request to raise that to 28?
No, we're dropping the residential portion from this application. We're just requesting today for the kitchen, the construction of the kitchen.
So are you getting rid of your 12 beds?
No.
No.
No. We're saying today we're definitely willing to drop those residential units from the application. We're just coming to you with this revised site plan. We just want to build the teaching kitchen. We're asking for your approval for this PUD to modify the application. We just want to build the teaching kitchen. We have been awarded a grant. Our grant monies are time sensitive, so we really would like to start the construction of the new teaching kitchen. So that revised site plan should show you.
My larger question
Yeah.
is, I understand that you've dropped whatever you're going to do, but have you also dropped the base zoning of your SPUD? Right now, the base zoning, you've asked for R4. This property is R1. Are you keeping it R1?
Are we keeping it?
That's very important to me and to a lot of other people, I think, that are going to speak.
Okay. We want to keep the zoning based upon what we have in the application.
Okay?
I'm sorry, I didn't follow that. Is staying?
The SPED says base zoning is R4.
Correct.
Rather than the R1 that is right now.
Correct. Well, I didn't understand, are they amending that to R1 now? Or are they keeping it as R4?
Keeping it at R4.
Okay.
The base could be dropped to R1 and still allow for the kitchen and the existing apartments.
That's really important.
I'm going to refer to our civil engineer here. Okay. Okay. As long as we can keep the existing facility operational? And we'll change it to the R3 thing?
We're just doing R1 base and add the multifamily use into that R1 base and limit it to the 12 bed.
Which is what they have now, and they have a permit for 12 beds.
Status quo and add the kitchen.
Won't change what your operations are now.
Okay,
And the only thing you're doing is adding that kitchen in the back.
correct.
Okay.
How much parking does the site have currently?
I think we have about 10 spaces and 1 handicap.
That concerns me a little bit. I mean, with 12 bed units, and then I assume the teaching kitchen will bring some additional traffic to the area.
It may. I mean, we're building it right now for the current residents that live there.
But your proposal doesn't include additional parking for it, does it?
No.
In this area?
Usually, our clients there utilize the bus system, so they do not have cars. And there's a bus stop right in front of our
Do you think that
facility.
the parking that you have currently is sufficient?
Absolutely, more than sufficient.
Because parking along 16th Street has gotten to be a nightmare.
Are there any other questions before we hear from the protesters?
Any additional? Okay.
You'll have a chance to rebut. Neela?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Neela Crank-Clements. I'm with Positively Paseo. We appreciate the good and necessary work that Neighborhood Services Organization does. Stacy met with 4 stakeholder groups from the area, the Classen 10 Penn Neighborhood Association, the Gatewood Historic District Neighborhood Association, the Plaza District Association, and our organization. We partner with the City of Oklahoma City's Strong Neighborhoods Initiative to revitalize the Classen 10 Penn neighborhood area. Representatives of the Classen 10 Penn Neighborhood Association could not be here today and asked me to speak on their behalf. At last week's meeting, Stacy presented NSO's proposal for the group home and teaching kitchen. The stakeholders suggested that NSO build the kitchen inside the group home they currently operate at 1416 Northwest 16th. Stacy shared at that meeting that the kitchen will not only serve the young men living in the existing group home, but also young men from around the city who will come for meals. Residents immediately surrounding the proposed kitchen are concerned about this additional traffic. At this time, NSO has not addressed this concern with any of the 4 stakeholder groups. The surrounding lots are all zoned, as you can see, R1 and R2 for the most part, single family. The location where NSO proposes to build the teaching kitchen is a prominent one. It fronts Northwest 16th Street, which serves as both the gateway into the neighborhood as well as the commercial heart of our neighborhood, the Plaza District. The proposed kitchen will extend into the lot zoned R1 to the east. All of the other homes along these few blocks of Northwest 16th are historically single-family homes, and we feel it is important to maintain that character. As residents and stakeholders, we have a vested interest in our neighborhood and want to enable positive development. We feel the teaching kitchen NSO is proposing to build is inappropriate for the lot, the block, and the neighborhood, and will negatively affect the historic character of the district. We suggest NSO look into an alternative. Thank you.
Before you leave, a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Did you hear what was discussed earlier? They're now wanting to amend the application to
R1 zoning,
and
that will still...
only the kitchen.
Right. We oppose the building of the kitchen on the exterior of the property. We would like to see the kitchen built inside the existing 12-unit complex.
Okay. And before someone else comes up, if they feed people from outside, do they need another permit?
It's very possible. I think I need to visit with them and see who these people are and where they're coming from and why they're being fed.
Well, it's the way the protester just presented it, basically they'll be running a soup kitchen now.
If that's the case...
They have a chance to refute that, and I suspect they will. But, it was my understanding when we heard this the first time that the only people they were providing meal service to were the residents, the 12 people there.
Right.
And at that time, I made the comment, as long as they didn't expand the operation, I thought it was okay to build a kitchen. But now, an element of what I'll call, and these are my terms, not the applicants, the soup kitchen comes up, and I thought that would require additional permitting.
It would require it would require generally a special permit, but it could be a use that would be added to this. It could be added to the SPUD. It's not in there now. That's the first we've heard about that. But it would require that use to be added to this SPUD to feed people from outside the facility.
Okay, very good.
Any other questions for me?
No, thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Debbie? Debbie Blackburn?
In the staff report, by the way, I am speaking on behalf of the Redevelopment Corporation, which is funded as a CHODO and was requested by, is operating as Positively Paseo. We operated in Paseo, we're a nonprofit. That is the reason your chairman recused himself. He was one of the organizers of this organization. And we're proud of what we've done in Paseo, and as a consequence, the city asked us to expand into the Strong Neighborhood Initiative, and we've taken on 2 additional of those neighborhoods, strong neighborhoods, to do home reconstruction and construction. One of our first projects in Classen Tenpin is on 16th Street. We're working on property right there right now. And as you read your staff report, you probably recognize that one of the things the city staff notes is that an overconcentration of social service facilities in a neighborhood can have a very detrimental effect. The young lady who was here last time we were here, who was active in the Classen Tenpin Neighborhood Association, Jessica Thompson, who just had a baby 2 days ago, pointed out to you with her pictures the condition of the properties that proliferate throughout Classen Tenpin. The condition of them, they look like abandoned housing, porches falling off and so forth. Some of these are NSOs, and I have nothing against NSO. I have the greatest respect for them. We are not a bunch of NIMBYs. We understand this. But you can absolutely turn an area to something you don't want if you overconcentrate these, especially in single-family residential. Classen Tenpin is just overloaded, and then on top of that, if you go a little farther west, the Salvation Army is going to put on 10th Street, which is a street that goes past Classen Tenpin, thus the name, a facility for the homeless. I think what we're seeing here is an attempt to piecemeal expansion of a facility here. Nobody wants to say, no, we're never going to do this. And as I watched you all in action last time, an impression was made on me about how people come up here and say, just let us upzone this. And we'll give you the plans and we'll do whatever it is you want to do. That really is not fair to do that. And I think this is what we have here. I think we have a plan to piecemeal something. And a lot of times, organizations that do good deeds, which NSO does, fail to see the long-term impact and the alteration of that entire neighborhood or entire community. Our attempt to redevelop this neighborhood by building nice houses that can be sold to people who are lower income will be it would be a conflict to what we're doing. One of our goals from the beginning was that we did not want to put this kind of effort and this kind of federal and city money into an area that would be ghettoized in 5 years. Paseo, after we started working there, the houses went from about $10 a square foot. They now sell for over $100 a square foot. And we are able to have more home ownership than rental. I would just ask you that you take into consideration that I think this is an attempt to piecemeal. And though I know from my time when I was in the 80s, John Yokel and I served on the update for the Oklahoma City plan, and I've heard the city council say, oh, that plan is not ordinance, that plan is just a guideline. I think it should be an ordinance. I think that they should give respect to your decisions to try to uphold the Oklahoma City plan, because quality of life and economic development go hand in hand. And I think all the work that we are starting in Classen Tenpin will be for naught. Plus, I have a concern that we voiced last time. There are a lot of bars around that area. Is this really the best place to put these young men?
Well, they're already there.
They're already there. They're already
Not
there.
expanding that, so please stay with the...
But we also have a problem with the fact that a lot of these nonprofits do not have the money to maintain these facilities. So if you expand it and you've got a freestanding kitchen over here that's going to attract and bring in people from outside who are not living there now, you're going to have a bigger, they're going to be coming back to you soon, wanting to expand that whole facility and wrap around the corner. That's ultimately what's going to happen. Somebody said to me, well, you know, Debbie, the downtown properties, the lots and everything are cheaper, so it's cheaper for nonprofits to do this. Not anymore. The lots downtown are escalating in value, and we need to look at being sure these are spread across the entire city.
Again,
and
we're not
concentrated.
adding a use here.
Not right now, you aren't.
Well, and that's what's before us.
But we also have, and your analogy was good, a soup kitchen, a proposed freestanding soup kitchen independent of the building that's there now.
I believe you heard Mr. Chandler say that's not in this application either. They can't do that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm going to reiterate, I've got to leave here at 2:30, and that's going to leave us,
Yes, sir.
without a quorum.
Let's try to move
Thank you.
forward. Kristen Bales, do you have something new?
I'd like to make some remarks for the Plaza District.
Very good.
The Plaza District Association has worked diligently over the last several years to revitalize 16th Street and the surrounding neighborhoods in partnership with the city and other neighborhood organizations. We feel strongly the need to protect and have our input heard in regards to new development along the gateway to our district. The applicant met with neighboring organizations, all of which had specific requests we would like to see addressed to ease our concerns. While the new housing build has been pulled from this application, rezoning the entire lot to R4 for the kitchen addition today would open up the opportunity for any owner of this lot in the future to develop group housing without any input from the community.
That we're going back to R1 and we're not expanding the use.
I'm just reading my prepared notes, if I could finish.
Well, if they're prepared notes, since we're under somewhat of a time crunch, could you just give them to the secretary and we'll add them to the record?
Mr. Chairman, I think this is kind of pointing to the problem here. We're sort of springing this on these people. This has been an ongoing process. They've met, they've discussed, and now suddenly we're changing the deal at the last minute and we're in a hurry. They deserve the opportunity not only to be heard, but also to hear.
I wasn't able to see any information about an updated application.
I'm going to make another suggestion here. There are 5 of us here to vote. The way things are looking right now, you're not going to get a unanimous vote out of this. What I would like to suggest, because of the confusion, that you continue this application for 2 weeks, you talk with these people, and all get on the same plane. We're staying with R1, as I understand it. We're amending it to only build the kitchen, and there will be no outside meal services. If that's, and whatever else you're doing. So when we hear this again in 2 weeks, we will see you all come up here with the same idea of what's happening and either agreeing with that idea or disagreeing with it. I think there's still going to be a significant amount of disagreement. I'm not saying you're going to get on the same plane, but I am telling you that I don't think there's going to be action today to either approve or deny your application.
Well, just for clarification for everybody, it is not a soup kitchen, so...
I believe we understand that, but, are you willing to take a continuance? take a 2-week continuance. Janice, I think that'd probably be in order.
I'll move 2-week continuance.
Second.
Please record your vote. It will be continued for 2 weeks.
Mr. Chairman, may I just make a comment affirming what Janice said? As this was going on, the minute that you came up with, oh, we've changed this before, immediately we should have said, time out. Bring us this stuff, let us consider it, give it to the neighborhood, let them consider what you're doing, et cetera, rather than we try to cobble it together and change what, it should have been done at the very outset. Stop, continue, and let's go on. So I think you guys have a tough row to hoe with respect to this application.
Okay, item number 14, PC 10362, to rezone 809 North Tulsa Avenue from R1 and RMH2 and I-1 Light Industrial to the I-2 Moderate Industrial District.
How are you all doing today? I was here 2 weeks ago. We have added
Name and address, please.
Oh, sorry. Blair Nafee, 605 North Tulsa Avenue.
Great, thank you.
We have gone ahead and shared with you our proposed site plan. I know that 2 weeks ago the comment was made, where were our trucks going to come in? The site plan shows that all of our trucks will be coming in on the north end of the property, which would be north of 8th Street. Trucks are going to come down Tulsa to come visit us. I also went ahead and included with the record a Google Maps with some pins along 8th Street. 8th Street along the south end of the road has 5 or 6 businesses that would receive semi-traffic as a course of their normal business. I spoke with traffic because that was your concern, sir. 2 years ago, traffic did a study at the corner of Tabor Drive and 8th Street, and they registered 800 cars. They went ahead and put an all-way stop sign there, as there is also currently an all-way stop sign at Farrah Drive on 8th Street. When I had this conversation with my bosses, he just said, our trucks don't go down 8th Street. Our drivers are told not to. To be honest, we actually had a mishap happen, and when you get that bill once, you don't want the bill again. And so we do not take 8th Street. We take Tulsa. I can't stop other truck traffic, and I certainly can't control businesses that are located and zoned properly on 8th Street.
Okay. We have Chairman. But let me speak on this, what he's just said about traffic, et cetera. At your request, I visited that area and drove down Tulsa and then turned on 8th Street and that sort of thing. I was there for no more than 4 minutes, and 3 big semi-trucks came from the west to the east to go to Portland. 3 big trucks. It was just boom, boom. There was a Ryder truck, and I think they're coming from Central Liquor or Sooner Beer or something like that. The large truck issues on the south side really are to the east of this, the last block of Northwest 8th Street. This area of Anchor Drive, where, those areas in here, and there's a great big vacant lot. Everything to the west of, Tabor Drive, isn't a problem. The problem is what's coming up from Central Liquor, from Sooner Beer, and then you're taking away, if your application is approved, the trailer park that's there. This is, bear with me.
Certainly.
I can't, to do anything else, to allow you to do this, and even though you say, no, we're going to go to, why these people don't go to 10th Street anyway, because there's a stoplight there, a stoplight on Portland, and it's probably easier and more efficient than try to go through a stop sign on Northwest 8 in Portland. But I'm still not convinced that traffic won't have a solution, perhaps, of that intersection of 8th and Tulsa to stop people from turning right or turning left, stop big trucks. Change the radius, change something, change something before I'm going to vote in favor of this application. If I were sitting there between, was it Duncan Drive and Farah Drive, and that's my house, I'd be going crazy, because truck after truck after truck. Do you know who owns Central Liquor?
That's who I represent.
That's my point, is that those folks go up and over. There's no control over those trucks that come out on 8th Street, period.
Our trucks are told not to take 8th Street. I can't control, sir, when Atlas Paving receives or
Can you control your employees?
I've told our employees they don't take 8th Street.
Don't tell me that, because I have people who have told me they've seen Central Liquor trucks. Are you calling them liars?
I'm not saying that I'm calling them liars. I'm saying if there's somebody driving on 8th Street, I'd love to know who it is. I'd like to know who the truck number is.
Probably a good thing about it, because the person who told me that is sitting to my right.
Yeah, no, and there was the truck.
So you're disingenuous with your statement. We tell them not to do it. Do you enforce it? Obviously not.
Yeah. I really can't condemn a neighborhood by allowing you to expand semi-truck business where there's no control over the trucks that go from Central Liquor to the south, up there, 8th Street, go to Portland and turn right, and I'm down there. It was really, I was there for 4 minutes, and it was just boom, boom, like that.
I really wish I would have been with you, sir, because, like I said,
I've gotten an earful.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time.
Let's get something going to help 8th and Tulsa.
Okay.
That's all I'm asking. I mean, I agree with your application. It's industrial down there, but there's a neighborhood, and there's houses, and there needs to be something that traffic can do to stop your trucks from going on 8th Street down to Portland.
Mr. Chairman, obviously we're somewhat in the same position on this application as we were on the last one. It is not going to be approved or denied today, I suspect. Therefore, a continuance would probably be in order. I don't know if that's what the applicant wants to do. If it is, what I would suggest is in that interim period, I would like to know from traffic what can or cannot be done about that 8th Street intersection. I share Commissioner Bright's concern, and my thought was we just change it to where you can't negotiate that turn with a big rig. Now, that's easily said. I don't know what the traffic department constraints are, but I sure would like to hear from them in this interim period as to what could be done to prevent that. And then I would be all in favor of this application.
Yeah, I've been out and I've met with Mr. Nafee and I've looked at the area. I understand the concern with the trucks on 8th Street. I don't think that it's all Mr. Nafee's issue. There are several other sources of truck traffic there. I don't know what the answer is to keep trucks from turning on 8th Street. I don't know if there is an answer. But, maybe possibly we could get the Traffic Commission involved and they could take a look at it with us. It might be one of those areas that we could kind of use as a project with them. But again, if you'd like to continue this, well, we can maybe we can
continuance is just fine, and I'll speak with traffic to see what can we do to prevent a right turn there.
Yeah.
Did you come in to offer some assistance?
Well, currently, 8th Street, Richard McCubbin with Traffic Management. Currently, 8th Street is signed for no truck traffic.
I understand.
However, the ordinance allows the trucks that have business in the area to use the road. It's a public road.
It's a public road, and the people on the west end need that truck access. I appreciate that.
Well,
by Portland, I'm sorry.
The whole length of 8th Street, they need it.
The people down here, I'm not sure they do. And to me, what I would like to hear in this from you guys during the continuance period is there a way to control that intersection at 8th and Tulsa where people will not be able to negotiate that street with a big rig? If there's not, there's not. I understand. But
I'm not sure what y'all are thinking of. If we try and restrict the traffic through, physical means, then are we also going to restrict traffic for people that actually live in the area?
Well, I'm not trying to restrict automobile traffic. I'm trying to restrict big rig traffic. And again, I don't know what is available, what tools you have in your toolbox to perhaps do that. It's great to stick up a sign and...
Well, Traffic Commission has been looking for a joint project to work with us on because from their point of view, once we approve plats, generally, is where the issue comes up. And, neighborhood layouts are set forth and then they're permanent. Traffic issues then develop within these subdivisions as the residents begin to live there and negotiate them in their cars all the time. And then those folks go to the Traffic Commission and say, we need help because of the way this is designed. And so this, Richard, may be a project where we can work, Mr. Nafee, with the Traffic Commission and the Planning Commission jointly, and maybe we can come up with some sort of a solution.
Yeah, but I view this as an improvement to the area.
I do too.
What he's proposing is going to be an improvement. I don't necessarily think it's going to increase truck traffic, even if his trucks, from time to time use 8th Street. The issue that we have there is an issue we have now. He's not going to create the issue.
He's not creating the issue, but he is in all probability.
He's definitely part of the issue. You saw his vehicles on that 8th Street.
Has demonstrated.
And they're not breaking any rules. They're not breaking any laws.
I understand,
okay? But it's illegal. What they're doing.
The more warehouses we put there, the more truck traffic we are going to have. We already have a truck traffic problem with 8th Street.
Right.
And what I'd like to do is I want to approve this application, but I want to fix 8th Street as part of that.
I think we would all agree with that if there's a way to do that. I'm not sure what it is.
And there may not be.
But I have another question about this, about traffic, is that the road on 8th Street is no curb, no gutter, asphalt, this narrow. In other words, I had to get off on Farrow Road to let a semi-truck pass me because my little Prius was just going to get smashed under 18 wheels. So the road is very narrow. It's asphalt, no curbs, no gutters. It's not appropriate for an 18-wheeler to be on that road. And so that's another factor, I think, to put into the mix about the condition of the road, the size of the road, the safety of automobile traffic going back and forth. That's just food for thought. Okay? To continue for 2 weeks?
That's fine.
Okay.
Mr. Murray and Ms. Woolsey, you have come back again to speak today. I think we know what your concerns are, and I think you hear some commission response to trying to help address some of that. So with your permission, we're going to continue this for 3 weeks and see that something can be worked. Well, come up then and give it to us, please. And give us your name and address again for the record, please.
Yes, I'm Elaine Woosley. I live at 4047 and 4049 Northwest 8th. My home is a duplex. I came along to reiterate what happened last time, was to offer a solution that he buy our strip out from, there's only 6 houses on my block, but I'm not talking about everything that goes up to Portland. But out of those 6 houses, 2 of us are long-term homeowners. Mr. Murray, 20-plus years. My family, 40-plus years. 2 houses are empty in foreclosure, up for sale, and then another 2 are rented. If they bought that area and they paved it with concrete and widened it, they could have, there is no space for turning. As a result, the road's gutted in front of my house. The retaining wall has been taken out in the corner of my home. I tried to build another one 10 years ago along Tulsa. Sometimes the trucks come up on the curb because there's 2 coming down. They can't pass. And now that I hear he says that where they're going to put the drive is directly across from my driveway. Already I have to stop
Let
and
me
wait.
suggest this to you, that maybe you give Mr. Nafee a call. We can't get involved, obviously, in real estate transactions.
Right.
And we can't suggest to him that he purchase property. That's not our role. We don't have that authority.
Yeah, I wish he had stayed. I wanted to address, he stopped my handyman, and I don't know if it was a comment or a threat he made to us, but he's quite angry at, apparently, me and my situation.
Again, we can't resolve that, but you might take your proposal and see if that solves a problem for him. I have no idea.
All right. Would you know how I can get a hold of him? I don't know.
Yeah, if you have a pen or pencil.
I do.
Call him at 405-226-4029.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Now we'll take a motion. Oh, I'm sorry, okay. To continue item 14 for 3 weeks, cast your votes, and that's approved. We actually meet the second Thursday next month, and it just happens to be 3 weeks this time.
Item 15 was deferred. Item 16 is SPUD 746 by ML Young Development to rezone 14000 North I-35 Service Road to CHC Highway Commercial District to SPUD 746.
Mark, hold on just a second. Greg Lawson, is he here? He came in late on item 17, which we continued at the beginning of the meeting. I want to make sure he wasn't just sitting here. I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead now.
Mark Grubbs, 1819 South Morgan Road, on behalf of the applicant. What we have before you today is a single-use SPUD. Current zoning's highway commercial, so down zoning to a single-use SPUD for the use of a mini storage. We have about, this item was on the agenda 2 weeks ago. We met with Commissioner Williams, who's not present tonight, about 3 weeks ago. Had some concerns with our frontage on the buildings. We went back and played with the renderings, made it more appearance-friendly to him. We emailed back and forth, and he said that we were looking a lot better, and that he liked what we were doing with it. So I'm sorry he's not here tonight. But we have changed just a little bit. What was in your package, I think that the view of the office did not have these, the windows and the extrusions coming out like the rest of the building did. The entire frontage of the building is going to be brick. The entire frontage of the, originally we had garage doors facing I-35, and, we immediately got rid of those. So that's all brick with some columns at the separations on the step downs, and we have the windows up top to give it what we think is a good appearance. This is a view from going northbound from I-35. There's not any water in the area, so we have to have the water storage tank for fire suppression purposes. Yeah.
One with the water storage tank there?
Yeah.
I don't see a 200 square foot sign on top of the water storage tank.
And
it is in the application. So could you tell me about that?
Well, we're just asking for 200 square feet of signage on the water storage tank. We originally, the applicant, my client came to me and said, we're on I-35. you know, the perfect place for a billboard. And I said, no, I'm going to stop right there. And so we started looking at it and talking about how much signage we could have. Our first application was a lot more signage than we have in there currently. Staff recommended the 8-foot monument sign. I went back to my client. He said that he was fine with that, but he would like to use the storage tank as signage, so we're asking to put 200 square feet of signage on that. Current zoning allows for, because of the frontage, allows for 620 square feet of signage, and we're simply asking for an 8-foot monument sign that's not going to be really that visible from I-35, relatively small from when somebody's driving down I-35, but we just ask that the storage tank, and those storage tanks, they come in all shapes and sizes. They can be tall and skinny, a little bit wider and shorter, and so we just ask to dress that storage tank up.
Well, is it going to be tall and skinny or short and wide?
I haven't designed it yet.
So is it going to be a 50-foot, 200-square-foot sign?
That can't be 50-foot.
How far will it be from the roadway?
Well, the access road is, I don't know how many feet the access road is off of I-35, to be honest.
The storage tank itself.
The storage tank is set back past the building limit line.
That's what I'm trying to find out. Is the distance from that?
The building limit line is 25 feet.
And what's the purpose of the sign? It's to tell the public there's a mini storage.
This is a mini storage.
This is a mini storage. Now, my question to you is, who driving by is not going to know that's a mini storage?
Everybody wants signage. I mean, you don't open up a business without signage.
Well, this is the point, is Commissioner Yokel, is this a tall, skinny one? Is this a short, fat one? How tall is the storage tank?
Which one do you like?
The
short and skinny or?
Short and fat.
Wait, not short and skinny.
Short and fat.
Do you like short and fat?
And then a 200, here's what I'd like to see, Mark, is what the storage tank is going to look like, the dimensions, and approve it on this. Everything else you've done, fine, but you've left open a big hole.
Well, and there's another big hole on TE2.
TE2, I was going to ask that be amended.
Signage shall meet the zoning requirement.
He's asking to delete TE2.
Well, I can delete TE2, but then I want to control the signs, and I'm having difficulty with the water tank sign, I'll tell you. I don't see the purpose of it, because the rendering you held up, I don't know how you can look at that rendering and conclude that you're looking at anything other than a mini storage.
So as far as the zoning allows, I believe near 120 square feet of attached signage.
You made the comment that you could have 600 feet across the front because of the frontage. Well, this is a SPUD, and that's what we're discussing right now. No, you can't.
Well, but I'm also coming in with a tremendous downzoning. This could be a truck stop too, and I'm a single-use spud. I mean, the spud we got in place.
And because of that, then, the issue about the signage is important with approval of the spud. I like pretty much the architecture that you've done, the dormer windows, the black fence that's in front, it's landscaping, the brickwork that's done, but there's a gap. And the gap is, well, I haven't designed it yet. Can you do it in 2 weeks and come back?
Just show us the tank.
I've already postponed it 2 weeks and did a lot in those 2 weeks. So you're fine with that? Yeah, it's 15 to 30,000. Based on the specification of the water tank, that's going to base the size of it. But I haven't got an answer from him yet.
Not the water tank per se.
Well, he was talking short and fat and tall and skinny.
A way to get around this 2-week continuance, perhaps, is to delete that water tank sign and keep your water tank designed at whatever you need to design it at.
Do you want the signage on the water tank, or do you want the 2 weeks? Well, it could, I mean, you're going with red, right? So it shows as red now. So if you want to leave it red and do no signage, maybe we can get around the continuance and move on. So no, would that get us around the continuance, no signage on the water storage tank?
Well, it would with me. And delete TE2. And any protest, Mr. Chairman?
No protesters, but I can see the applicant coming up with a color you've never seen before.
Well, you know, if he likes that color, power to him.
Member Center, no.
With those modifications, I would move approval, deleting TE2, keeping the 8-foot monument signs, and deleting the 200-square-foot sign on the water tank.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 17 is deferred. Item 18 is case C 6548, preliminary plat of Del Norte at Surrey Hills.
For the record, Kendall Dillon with Craft and Toll, representing the applicant, and this is a parcel of ground that's a little under 10 acres. It's currently zoned R2, and so we have obviously this application for a preliminary plat. We're not requesting any variances in agreement with the TEs, and would ask for your approval.
Said that without taking a breath. No one has signed up, commissioners. Where are we going to have recreational amenities?
For start, it is under 10 acres, so obviously we're exempt from the subdivision regulations, but we do have a common area C there that we will plan on having.
That's why I asked, because you had it in your...
Right.
I knew you didn't have to do it.
Sure.
Okay. No one signed up, commissioners.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Cast your votes, and you're approved. Thank you.
Item number 19 is SP 467 by Architects in Partnership to operate a personal storage use in the PUD 1382 district.
Hello. Katie Sanchez with AIP. Would you like the address? 3220 Marshall Avenue, Norman, Oklahoma. I'm here on behalf of Portland Apartments Properties, LLC. Our client is interested. We have already come before you and gotten a specific plan approved, and the client wanted us to look into having part of the apartment site special permitted to allow for a storage facility. We have revised our site plan and submitted it, as you have up there, to show how this will change. We feel this will be an improvement to the approved specific plan, mostly because it will reduce traffic, and we also feel like it will provide a service to the community. And we have the storage facility developer guru here to answer your questions and explain the design and what he's doing beyond the guidelines for mini storage.
I don't see a water tank here.
Steve Oaf, 1891 Trailview Drive, Norman. Probably when they approached me to draw the mini storage, Katie sent me the new Oklahoma City guidelines for development of self-storage, and we went through all that very carefully. We've got a new mini storage going in Moore. Has a little bit of a new design statement to it in that there's a building on the side of the office building, which is usually the best looking building. In our case, it's residential looking building, pitched roof, brick, all that kind of thing, nice windows. So we do a building next to it that borders on the main road that backs up so that the back of the building, it's actually a storage building, but the back of it is brick, maybe some windows, pitched roof, all that stuff, so that, on the road frontage, that's the way it looks.
Okay.
And we have pitched roofs throughout the property. We're going to do extensive landscaping, and then it's a courtyard design, so that interior lights all stay within the courtyard area. Any traffic that we have in the facility is somewhat hidden from everything around it. They're highly secure. This will have 20-plus cameras, individual door alarms. Everything's recorded on a DVR and kept for 90 days. They're extremely secure. Of course, gate access. We do either all solid wood fencing, or on the front we do brick post, wrought iron, that kind of thing. Okay. So they're extremely nice facilities.
And there will be no outdoor storage?
No outdoor storage is planned, right.
And I just wanted to clarify, the areas where he's saying that they would have
The whole project?
the enhanced facade would be right along that road that will be built along with the apartments.
It's just the road we've been waiting for some time.
Katie kind of touched on it. Self-storage, a lot of places are using them kind of like a buffer, actually, anymore. They're extremely low traffic. The gate will close at 9 o'clock. There'll be zero traffic after 9 o'clock at night. And like I said, with the courtyard deal, all the lights shine inward, makes them pretty good neighbors.
Okay. No one signed up. You agree with all the TEs, technical evaluations?
Yes.
Move approval. We have a motion and a second to approve item 19. Cast your votes. Janice, that's a no? Okay, well, we'll continue for 3 weeks. We'll see you February.
Can we address anything? Or?
Yeah.
Excuse me? Could you maybe explain why? Yeah, could we address it and possibly?
Why is it not appropriate on an interior space like this?
That's a little bit of the new, it's kind of a neighborhood self-storage. And it's designed to be that way, and it's actually...
I generally don't like mini storage.
Not at all.
No. But it's an interior. It's offset from Portland. It's offset from Memorial. It's buried in there.
And it's low traffic. There will be people from that surrounding area.
And I thought that was an advantage to it, Janice. But we'll be back in 3 weeks, I guess.
No chance of a revote?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
That concludes items for individual consideration today, folks. Planning Commission committees. Planning Commission members. Nick.
Mr. Chairman, I have just one passing comment. We oftentimes ask developers to make certain representations to us, and they oftentimes do. We're not in the habit of asking them to put it in a PUD.
Or to make it a TE, for example.
Or make it a TE on something so that it has some enforceability. They said, well, yeah, we'll do that. You all recall recently there was a PUD before us for the area of 122nd Arthur. The applicants stood in front of us, said the corner of the property is bisected by a creek, that they were going to keep the trees and make it a park-like setting. Clean it up and make it a park-like setting. In the last 2 days, Midwest Wrecking is in tearing out all the trees. I went by there this morning. They'd cleared out the entire south side. They were working on the north side. I don't know if they're leaving 6 trees on the north or they just hadn't gotten to them yet. But I'm about to give up on good-natured representations by applicants.
Put it in there.
It's time to put them in the TEs or just not ask for it.
No, I agree.
This is very disingenuous. This application came back to us for an amendment when they wanted to put a drugstore in. They wanted to cut through those trees so they'd have visibility from 122nd Street. We said no, and
this is what we got.
This is what we get.
You know, I think your point is well taken, but even under the best of circumstances and the most trustworthy of applicants and the, you know, goodest faith there can be on both sides, time goes by, staff changes, commission members change. We have the great luxury of having someone like you who has sat on the commission for as long as you have, and you sort of serve as our institutional memory in that way on so many different issues. But we can't count on that forever, and I think we all need to be more cognizant of the fact that we've got to hold to what's written in black and white.
Well, yeah, my point is in attempts to be collegial or whatever, we ask someone to do something, we take their word for it and expect them to do it, and then, as you said, time passes, or maybe the property flips to another owner who...
That's the issue.
All those things happen.
All those things can happen.
So.
And, you know, my reason for bringing this up is, you know, I think we should discontinue that practice, and if we expect something to be done, we need to add it to a TE or have it written specifically in the PUD.
I absolutely agree with that.
Me too.
Okay, Mr. Bright.
Yes, who represents the Planning Commission before the City Council to represent what we have voted on and why? Because that issue about the RAs, you know, where we denied that, and for good reason. And here what we heard was, well, Pete White said, I don't know why they did it this way. I've talked to the applicant. Does anybody represent us at the City Council when these applications come up? Because, you know, is it a totally brand-new issue before City Council that don't have any information of what we do and why?
Well, JJ and Aubrey and I discussed that in the pre-meeting, as a matter of fact. And JJ can tell you and Aubrey what the staff does at this time, and then we actually have the same idea, the three of us, about how we address it. But
Anytime there's a denial by the Planning Commission of an application, there's a cover memo that goes with all of the council items, and we explain the reason from the minutes and from the tape, whatever information we can get, as to why you made that decision. Also, anytime you make a recommendation that's contrary to a staff recommendation, we do the same thing. But there is no formal presentation of that. It's just in their information on their cover memo to read.
Just listening to the protester, that's the only information that I have. And he said, Pete White said, I don't know why the Planning Commission did this. I've talked to the applicant. Without this guy showing up at the Planning Commission or other protesters to explain what they're dealing with, we need to have people that really do say to council why we did it. Now, they can go thumb your nose and, I'll just do what I want to do, but at least they would have some insight, because, I've said this before many times, the members of this Planning Commission, as it's composed right now, work very hard and do a great deal of analysis and go through their papers and go through meetings, et cetera, to arrive at what we consider is, with planning, with the planning department and staff, good decisions based upon reasoned and sound principles. It's not willy-nilly. It's not like, well, those guys just, they don't know what they're doing. They just denied it because they didn't like the color of the guy's suit. That's not what we do. And so I think it's a matter of respect for what this commission does and how hard we work, that council at least would be informed about why it is we make those decisions and have some full idea of what reasons we did, and if there weren't any protesters that appeared before council, well, I can see maybe why Councilman White said, well, I don't know, nobody's here. So, at any rate, it's being discussed.
Well, one thought is to have staff make presentations to the council. And that may or may not work.
Makes for a long meeting.
Well, yeah.
It does.
It makes their meeting longer, but the suggestion that it be done with our meetings would make these much longer at the Planning Commission. But it gives applicants, particularly the people who are used to practicing before us and the council, an opportunity to give a completely different presentation to the council than we heard. I mean, if we were to go and watch the city council for several meetings, and we heard some presentations about items that were coming from us to the council, we probably wouldn't recognize the cases. And so if staff begins with a preamble or some sort of an outline that kind of sets or frames the conversation so that the applicant, when they get up to speak, are kind of been channeled or guided so that they're at least presenting something that sounds a little bit like what we heard.
Touching on that in just a little different vein, Mr. Chairman, and something you and I had discussed, understand the council is sending a matter back to the planning that we voted 4-4 on to get our recommendation. And I think that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But the problem I have is I'm not certain what that accomplishes, regardless of what that vote is. Assuming we have 9 members, and the vote comes out, I'll say 5-4, and I won't argue. I don't care whether it's for approval or denial. I'm not certain that really helps the council that much to have a recommendation with a 5-4 vote as any more than it does with a 4-4 deadlock. In the same breath, obviously we can hold those applications over until we get resolution. And my heartburn with that is I think that gives people the opportunity to start continuing their case indefinitely until they can count the right 5 people present. So that's something we might give some thought to going forward.
I think that's definitely worthwhile. I think that's worth doing. I don't like to send cases on to council without a recommendation, and sending them on with 4-4 is about the same thing. But I really do think, you're talking about courtesy that we show most of the people who appear here regularly, that the courtesy of having a full commission or, voting on cases when they have a better chance of getting them approved, I would say even, because there are more people here or whatever. And we probably ought to think about whether that's really a good idea, On any given day, I think it does tend to give those people who practice in front of us professionally an advantage over the people who don't. People who have to come down here either as protestants or as just, the mom and pop one-time applicant, who they take their chances and they show up and they get what they get, So I think probably as a matter of policy, we ought to give that some thought.
My last comment, Mr. Chairman, is thank you for defending my honor and saying that my comments were fair.
I would also offer that they were premature.
Something else to say.
We'll talk about it later.
I did also want to remind everybody, based on the Ward 3, 8th and Tulsa case, that you all would have received an email from the Traffic Commission asking you to name one place in your individual ward that you would like to see made the subject of a review by traffic staff with regard to traffic calming or some sort of a problem area that you could identify that might be a good pilot project. I have so many in my ward, I didn't bother to identify one, but my traffic commissioner knows them all by heart.
Did you say we've received emails?
You will have, yes, received one, so go back and look
I
through
have
the emails.
really big gripes. A lot
In quite a while.
Huh?
You did,
Well,
but
no,
I'll have another
I'm
one.
talking
sent.
about the length of time that the green light is on one street, and on the cross street, you wait forever for the light to change when there's no traffic. 16th in May, 36th in May, 30th in May, come on.
Those are all good suggestions.
And
I'm
is
not
that-
asking you to tell me.
No, but is that part of what the process would be?
Any
Anything?
area, in any traffic issue in your ward
good.
that you think would like to be given that little sort of extra effort to come up with a solution?
Traffic Commission would like to work with us, as I said earlier,
In a
very much
proactive way.
involving subdivision design as it relates to traffic. Because once we approve a plat and the layout's there, the issues, for better or worse, are there on the ground. And then people who live there have to live with them or try and solve them, so they go to the Traffic Commission and ask for help. So the idea of working with them on traffic issues might also get us to a point where we encourage better design of subdivisions in general. Going back to the split vote kind of question that we talked about and that Nick and I have spent some time talking about, it's not a solution, and it's been a problem from time to time. But if there is a 4-4 vote, and of course the prime example of the person who always insists that he go on to council is Dennis, because that's where he'll go and take his chances. To the extent that the discussion process on both sides of the vote, 4 here and 4 here, if that reasoning can be shared with the council, at least that gives them a better idea of why they got a 4-4 vote and some better idea of what the real issue is that caused us not to be able to come to some kind of consensus. And I would say 5-4 should get that same kind of treatment, because you've essentially got a non-approval there. I mean, you have 5 votes, but you don't have real planning commission approval for whatever goes forward. So to the extent that information can be shared, the council is in a position to be better informed as they begin their deliberations.
I wonder if we should be providing, I've recently taken up my seat on the Board of Adjustment, and when we hear appeals from the HP Commission, for instance, we get a little DVD that has the case on it. Of course, the decision process there is a little different, but I wonder if the council members should be provided with a DVD or a link or whatever would work for somebody who's more techno-savvy than I am, to go look at the discussion on zoning cases in their ward, since there's so much more deference given to council members in terms of what that council member thinks about zoning in their ward. If they would at least look at their own cases and inform themselves about why decisions were taken the way they were on individual cases, then they might or might not choose to look at them, but perhaps we could provide them with them.
If they have no warning before they get their packet, they get their packet on Friday night and meet on Tuesday morning with a packet that's a lot thicker than anything we see. It's an awful lot of in-depth work for them to do, which is why I'm kind of thinking that if maybe we had...
That's why they get paid the big bucks, John.
Well, that's why I'm thinking if we had a staff presentation of the case to them as a framework for discussion, which would take a few minutes. Right. I'm thinking they'd get much more information, at exactly the moment when they can use it. Aubrey?
I was just going to say, I do believe that they have the opportunity to review the tapes, and some of them do go back and review those prior to the meeting. And I do think that it's just based on how much lead time they get. If an applicant goes to them to discuss the case, a lot of times they'll have more lead time to go back and review those tapes.
But again, that favors the people who practice in front of us professionally. The mom and pop, they don't know to do that. So they don't even know for sure if it's okay for them to call their city council person, So.
Okay, Planning Department?
I just wanted to mention, if you didn't watch the last city council meeting, council members Salyer, Shadid, and White brought forth an alternative proposal to allow urban chickens. And that was discussed, and now it's remanded back to the Planning Commission for your consideration and a recommendation.
That's what I laughed about. That's what I thought you were going to talk about.
That was not the one I was referring to, but now that you bring that up, Aubrey, is what's coming back to us in a specific form, or are we going to have an opportunity to craft it?
This is coming back as a revised ordinance amendment that establishes urban chickens as a special exception use.
I understand, but my question is, are we being given an opportunity to tweak it, or are we just going to hear it?
It's going to go through the same process where you'll have an introduction, you'll have an opportunity to discuss the merits of the proposal, to make recommendations for any modifications, and then those recommendations are carried forward to City Council.
Well, I'm not going to speak for our Board of Adjustment member, but chickens shouldn't be going to the Board of Adjustment.
This is also going to be set for an Urban Development Committee meeting on February 13th, which is the date that we expect it to be introduced. So we'll be sending a notice of that meeting.
I won't be here. Thank you for sparing me that. Anything else from Planning? Development Services? Municipal Counselor? No lawsuits this week? Motion to adjourn? We're adjourned. Do I really